What's up, everyone? Welcome to the April 16th edition of DraftKings Tournament Plays presented by Prize Picks. I'm your host, Adam Scherer. You can follow me on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And as a reminder, you get one free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you sign up and make a deposit at Prize Picks. Be sure to use the code Awesemo to receive a 100% first deposit bonus up to $100. We have a nice split slate today on Saturday, 6 games tonight on DraftKings. So we're going to take a look at those, look at 3 of the top tournament stacks and 3 of the top tournament pitchers using the top stacks tool and the top pitchers tool on awesemo.com. Starting with the stacks, coming in at number 3, the Los Angeles Angels have a 10% chance of being the top scoring stack. They're projected for 9% aggregate ownership tonight against Taylor Hearn. They have a 4.6 implied run total. It's not the deepest lineup. We know that, with this Angels team, but you do get 2 of the best hitters in baseball with Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout at the top. You get a lot of power from Anthony Rendon. Max Stassi has some pop for a catcher. Joe Adell has actually been putting the ball in play early in the season. He's hit a couple of home runs. That's good to see because we know he has a lot of power upside. It's just a matter of making contact. And then Taylor Hearn is just a decent pitcher. He in the games he started last year, he struck out 18.5% of hitters, allowed 1.5 home runs per 9, 4.79 xFIP. But he does have some decent stuff. He's somebody you could see improve. But right now, the Angels just projected to go a little bit under owned in tournaments tonight. Number 2, the New York Yankees taking on Tyler Wells and the Baltimore Orioles. The Yankees have a 5.2 implied run total. They are projected for 11% aggregate ownership with a 14% chance of being the top stack. Tyler Wells is a bit of a question mark because he primarily pitched out of the bullpen for Baltimore last year. He showed good stuff, but we typically see pitchers lose effectiveness when they move from the bullpen to the starting rotation. So the jury's still out on Wells. We know that the Yankees have tons of power in this lineup. The Orioles bullpen also has been pretty solid early in the season. Once again, a good outing yesterday, holding the Yankees to 1 run over, I believe it was 11 innings. But it's a bullpen that still really needs to prove itself. I don't buy into them being as good as they have been early in the season, at least so far. So I do think that it's still a plus that, if the Yankees can get to Wells early, they're going to get some pretty questionable arms coming in behind him as well. And number 1, the Chicago Cubs projected for 16% aggregate ownership with an 18% chance of being the top scoring stack on the slate. They're facing Antonio Senzatella in Coors Field. Senzatella does a good job of keeping the ball on the ground and avoiding hard contact, but he only struck out 15.3% of hitters last year. He also only walked 4.8%. The reason I mentioned the walk percentage is from an upside standpoint for your stacks. That's actually pretty appealing because you obviously get more points for hits than you do for walks. So even though he only allowed 0.68 home runs per 9 last year with a decent 4.2 xFIP, you're going to be getting the ball put in play. It's a massive outfield in Coors Field. That's one of the main reasons that we like to roster hitters there. And the Cubs are going a little bit under-owned right now in DraftKings tournaments. As far as the pitching goes, coming in at number 3, Hunter Greene is $7,500 in a brutal matchup against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Green's projected for about 5% ownership with a 16% chance of being a top 2 scoring pitcher on the slate. Greene made his major league debut on April 10th. He threw 92 pitches. He's one of the top pitching prospects in baseball. And so at very low ownership, I'm interested in getting to him here in tournaments. The fact that he threw 92 pitches shouldn't be ignored either, because at this point in the season, we still have pretty legitimate question marks on some other pitchers about what happens if they're at 80 pitches after 5 innings. Do they get to go out there for the 6th? Do they get pulled? Greene, we know pitch count's not going to be an issue here. It's just a matter of, can he be effective in this spot? Number 2, Taylor Hearn taking on the Angels, who I'd already talked about. Hearn is only $6,000. He's projected for 14% ownership with an 18% chance of being in the optimal lineup. The Angels' 4.6 implied run total isn't anything to sneeze at, but it's not overly concerning either. Hearn did throw 76 pitches in his first start. I think it's likely he gets into the 80s here if he's pitching well. And as I mentioned when I talked about the Angels, if you can navigate that top part of the order and not give up too much damage to Ohtani, Trout, and Rendon, there are some relatively easy outs toward the bottom of the order for the Angels. So at this price tag, it's a pretty decent spot for Hearn. And number 1, one of the biggest question marks on the slate, Julio Urias. He's projected for 21% ownership at a $9,900 price tag. We have him with a 23% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. He's got one of the best matchups possible taking on the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds only have a 3.3 implied run total. Urias is a strong pitcher. Last season as a starter, he struck out 25.6% of hitters, had a 3.8 xFIP, only walked 5.3% of hitters as well. The concerns for Urias are that he only threw 57 pitches in his first start of the season. That was, I think, mostly performance related as he really struggled in Coors Field, but his velocity was also down. He said that he's not dealing with anything health-wise, so taking that at face value, I think we still just continue to expect this to be the same level of pitcher that we've gotten in previous years. I do think that there's a good chance he gets pulled after 5 innings, unless, he's managed to somehow only throw 55 or 60 pitches. Assuming he's at like 70, 75 pitches, I wouldn't be surprised if he comes out. So that is a bit of a concern, but he is still a good pitcher in a very good spot. So to recap, the top 3 tournament stacks on DraftKings: number 3, the Los Angeles Angels; number 2, the New York Yankees; number 1, the Chicago Cubs. And the top 3 tournament pitchers on DraftKings: number 3, Hunter Green; number 2, Taylor Hearn; and number 1, Julio Urias.